As a business owner, does it ever feel like you're playing freaking whack-a-mole every day, just reacting and having to, hit the different problems of the day, just trying to make it through the end of the day, the end of the week, the end of the month? The reason that I ask that is, when I was, building my first company and, under $1 million a year in revenue and even just above $1 million a year in revenue, it just felt like I was reacting every single day to the problems. And I never felt like I was actually getting ahead. I just felt like I was kind of like running on a treadmill or felt like I was on this hamster wheel. And so I want to discuss in this video, how to diagnose, what's going on in your business, regardless of what revenue point you're at currently right now, so that you could focus on the number one constraint that's holding you back from where you are to where you want to go. Okay, so when I'm looking at any individual business, I look at them all the same way. And that's essentially like a conveyor belt. And so, I'm going to go ahead and draw this out for you and kind of help you get an understanding of how I look at every business and how you can look at them a little bit differently to be able to work on the number one constraint for your business. And, my drawing skills are not the best. So, this is a conveyor belt, in the version that I can best make. And as we're looking at this conveyor belt, there's a few different elements, which are really the core elements that I see every single business has. And so the first one is the marketing. Number two is the sales. Number three is the operations. And number four is the finance. So we got these wheels on the bottom of the conveyor belt here. Very beautiful drawing. That looks like crap, but we will go with it because that is our minimum viable done conveyor belt. So when we're looking at this, again, every business has marketing, every business has sales, some sort of operations, and some sort of finance functions that are happening. If you are at a point in your business where you're stuck, your revenue is not growing, this is the self-diagnosis I do, regardless of if it's a company that I just acquired for a few $1,000,000, a company of ours that's doing close to 30 million a year, or it's a company that's doing under $1 million a year, maybe even 100,000 a year, trying to figure out what they need to do. And so this is essentially the exercise that I'll go through and questions that I'll ask. So when I go into any business, again, we'll look at it, at any of these four key areas. And so when we're looking at this conveyor belt, essentially how, the conveyor belt operates is leads fall down into, the funnel. The sales creates a conversion event that has to happen to, collect the money from the customers. And then once the sale occurs, then we move down the conveyor belt to operations to fulfill on our product or our service that we're, marketing and selling. And then after all of that happens, finance has to make investments to hire people. Finance has to make investments to buy products, software, lots of different things for the business to be able to continue to scale, grow, what have you. So when we're looking at this, here's what you can do to ask yourself some of these questions. And so we'll start at the beginning and we'll work our way to the end. And so if we look at marketing as the first one, here's a question that, I will ask typically in any of our companies to see, okay, what is the number one constraint? So if we're thinking about marketing being the number one constraint, we have to ask ourselves this: is my business right now generating so many lead opportunities that I can't even keep up with those leads? And so we have so much opportunity coming in the door that we're drowning in leads. We're drowning in appointments. We're drowning in customers, interested in our product or interested in our service. So we're just getting a flood of those opportunities. And obviously there's more to it of like, okay, well, are they paid opportunities, organic? Are they referrals? Like there's all sources. What we're talking about is just, do you have an overwhelming amount of opportunity that's funneling your leads into your business? And if the answer is no, then your number one constraint is marketing. Like you need to go get leads in the door. If you are getting an abundance of leads, you're getting all of the freaking leads that you possibly can, and you're, something's happening and something's kind of broken at this stage where the sales mechanism or the sales event isn't occurring. So let's say it's like, we're getting tons of leads, but we're just not converting them. Well, it's probably because something's broken in your sales process. So that's something that we'd attack. So if we know that we have, more than enough leads from, we have organic sources or we have paid sources, they're qualified leads, meaning they're people that know your business and are the avatar of people that you want to sell and can, are qualified, right? They know your biz, they're your avatar, they have the money to spend on the thing that you offer. You have enough leads. So we're moving on from that. But the sales mechanism, there's something going on. So if we're not converting enough of these opportunities in the marketing side, then I'm diving into sales. I'm like, why is that happening? And so things that I'll dig into on the sales side is things like this. I'll look at, okay, well, what are our KPIs for sales? One, it's like, okay, what's our sales team look like? What is the amount of leads per sales rep or salesperson? If it's just you selling, obviously it's just you, but the amount of leads per salesperson that you have and, that they're working. Of the leads that they're working, how many of those leads are they actually closing? Like, what's the closing percentage? If they get 10 leads assigned to them and they sell 3 of them, you have a 30% close rate. Obviously, I'm assuming those 10 are all like appointments that showed up, or those are all, people that they were able to meet with, not just, a web form on your company's website. So I'm looking at on the sales mechanism, if I'm not converting enough of the leads that are coming in to grow my company and to maintain profitability from the sales that I'm making, again, we're digging into the sales. So it's like, based on the leads that my sales team's getting, like, what's that look like? Is it a sales process thing? When we get a lead coming into our business, are we not following up fast enough? Do we have a script that we're following? Do we have, a CRM that helps us, do some automated follow-ups to these leads that are coming into our business? All of these things here. So, it's just like I'm unpacking. And so we look at, there's 4 core areas of the business: marketing, sales, ops, finance. And then in those, we're kind of like popping the hood of like, okay, well, we're not converting enough. So let's pop open the hood. What are our KPIs? What are the leads? What are the sales? What are we closing at, percentage wise? Do we have a sales process? Do we have a script? Do we have a CRM to help us automate some of the follow-up? Does our sales team, or if you're the ones, sole person selling in your business, are you practicing your presentation, or practicing your objection handlers? Every business has 5 or 7 of objections for their product or their service, and it's like, once you know what they are, figure out the best way to handle those objections and practice it. So that's what I've kind of dive into on the sales side. So again, let's go through these constraints. So let's say we're getting all the leads in the world and we're just closing them like gangbusters, and we're just freaking collecting tons of cash, and marketing, sales isn't your issue anymore. But now we have to look at, well, is it operations? Are we selling, we're getting enough leads, we're selling enough of them, but something's happening after we sell them that's broken. There's some things that show up. Again, we pop the hood open under operations, and that's, the way that you fulfill your company's product or you fulfill your company's service. And so if we're looking at it, it's like, okay, well, what are some of the things that we're going to dive into to see what's broken on operations? Well, let's look at our net promoter score. Basically just our scoring system to figure out how happy our customers are. Let's look at our reviews and operations. How long does it take for delivery? Are we in operations fulfilling on the promises that marketing and sales promised? When we're thinking about in the operations and the fulfillment of our product or our service, do we have SOPs, really well defined for how we deliver on our product or our service so that there's a smooth delivery? And, or is it when there's, a sale happens in your company, it's like this freaking, disaster where, client expectations aren't met. Really operations is the stage where it's like whatever happened in your marketing and sales event needs to then actually follow through above and beyond that in the operations and the fulfillment side of what you do. We're looking at things in ops to see if that's what's broken. Other things that would be coming up is churn. So if you have a recurring subscription type business or recurring retainer business, are people canceling, faster than you can, put them into the business? And, if you're looking at that, another thing that you're going to be looking at is, refunds or chargebacks. Worst, right? So in ops is where you're going to see that. It's like, oh, well, your operations isn't fulfilling at the quality that your customers were sold in sales and marketing. So now people are refunding, people are canceling, people are charging back their, charge because they're pissed because you didn't do what you said you were going to do. So those are just some of the things that we'll dive into. And so notice, again, it's marketing, sales, ops, finance. But there's certain things that we'll dive into to dissect, like what's causing this to be an issue. And so In ops, again, it's like we're looking at the reviews, the ratings, how smooth is our delivery? Are we delivering what we actually promised in the sales process? Are our SOPs refined so customer 1 and customer 101 gets that same great experience? Are people churning out? They're canceling too fast because we just aren't delivering as high of a quality service or product as we actually told them we were going to, or the refunds, chargebacks. And so those are some of the things that we'll dive into to try to fix. And so if none of those things are happening, it's like, man, like we are crushing it. We're getting leads in the door. We're converting them at a great rate. We're fulfilling on them really well. And those 3 things aren't an issue as much in the business. Then we move on to finance. And finance is a few different things, but your finance could be just by, your company cash accounts. Different types of businesses have different cash cycles. Like if you have a roofing company, you might have, these big outstanding receivables of, okay, we sold a commercial job, but, we're getting a small deposit today, but we don't get paid the chunk of the job until 3 months from now. And so we have to float the cash until, we got to pay our crews, we got to pay for other op expenses and payroll and all this stuff. So your finance bottlenecks might be, well, we need more cash in our company accounts. Other things on finance is, capital, the capital management. How are you able to invest into the business? I have a cleaning company that I have equity in. And, one of the things there is for us to expand, our marketing, our sales is great. Our fulfillment is great. One of the bottlenecks that we're working on helping them solve is, the capital management of, okay, we want to go buy another car, another 2 cars, another 3 cars to service more properties and to get more clients and increase our revenue. Well, we gotta manage the capital so that we can pay for those cars and so that we can, get them out into the field. So we got to manage the capital correctly to be able to do that. Really in finance, it comes down to like cash, accounts and like the amount of cash we have to be able to do things. The capital management becomes a bottleneck. We got to, in our cleaning business, we got cars, we got to manage the money right to be able to service them, get oil changes, get new tires. When the check engine light comes on, they got to go to service, all sorts of things, that a company has to pay for. And so, really on the finance side, the constraint becomes, the amount of cash available that the company has to continue to grow and expand, which can become a constraint. And the other thing is just around that overall capital management. These are just some ideas. And, obviously, depending on what type of business you're in, it's going to be a little bit different based on what you do specifically. But just really trying to help you understand, the thought process I go through whenever we're trying to grow a business. Questions that I'll ask myself is really, if I had to double the business today, what is the number one constraint causing me to not be able to do that? Well, okay, I'm getting enough leads, so I could just turn up the leads and I'd be able to do that. Great. I would have a hard time doubling the sales because I need to hire more salespeople. Okay, well, great. Go hire more salespeople. Operations, we just need to hire more production team members or more account managers or whatever the business is. Finance, well, we got to manage the money well. Do you want to take as much profit this month, this quarter, or do you want to put a little bit more of that into the business and continue being able to expand out the company? These are all just questions that you have to ask yourself. So, that's typically how I'll work through this process, and, not to get into the weeds because oftentimes we can think of problems in every department in our business or areas of opportunity to fix and make marketing better, to make sales better, to make ops better, to make finance better. At any given time, there's typically one main constraint. And the goal as a business owner of yours on the strategic side is you need to go and address the number one constraint causing the business not to be able to double right now. And so that is what you're essentially doing when you're using this type of framework. And I like the conveyor belt because I could just see it's like, well, if I don't have, stuff falling down onto the hopper, sales can't do their thing. So that's where I said that's where you start. And then the reason that, I was saying that sales is the next one is, well, if you have stuff falling on the hopper, but you don't have something converting it, then your ops team doesn't have anything to do. So and then your ops, they got to, run things efficiently so that customers stay. So you have the money to reinvest in, put into the business. And then finance is what kind of holds a lot of this stuff together to invest in things correctly. That's in a nutshell, the thought process that I'll go through to identify, what's broken, what's not broken, or more so, what is the number one priority or constraint that we need to solve for to take the business to the next level. And I'll say again, regardless of what revenue size you're at, you can use this, whether you're doing under 100 grand a year, you're doing 5 million a year, $1 million a year, you can do the same framework to be able to identify where you need to focus more of your time and attention in your company. And if you're at a point in your business where you're really wanting to go to the next level and you need help installing the right systems, the right processes into your business to turn your company into a high profit, self-managing company, all myself and my team at Scale with Pros do is help founders do just that. So if you want to learn what that looks like to take your business to the next level and create more free time and profit at the same time, click the link below to learn more. And with that being said, we'll see you in the next video.